Good morning and welcome into the room. This is Breakfast News on MITV Plus. I am Segun Akinola. This morning, regional politics, royalty in Akwete cloth, a digital library glow up in Kano, and the ever-running debate over state police. But before we get into it, let's take a quick break. We will be back shortly. Welcome back. This morning we start in Freetown, Sierra Leone, where Nigeria didn't just show up to the ECOWAS summit, it showed up with receipts. President Bola Tinubu has called on ECOWAS leaders to adopt a united stance against xenophobic attacks on Africans in South Africa and strengthen regional cooperation on security, trade, and democratic governance. Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the 69th ECOWAS summit in Freetown, Sierra Leone, the president condemned the attacks, revealed that Nigeria had evacuated more than 1,490 citizens, and urged the regional bloc to present a common position before the African Union. Tinubu also reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to the ECOWAS Compact for the Future of Regional Integration, calling for stronger collaboration against terrorism, unconstitutional changes of government, and other security threats through enhanced intelligence sharing and the ECOWAS standby force. He further advocated the removal of trade barriers, improved regional infrastructure, and the creation of a digital single market to drive economic growth, innovation, and job creation. The summit also featured calls for deeper regional integration from ECOWAS chairman and Sierra Leone president Julius Maada Bio, while UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed pledged continued support for West Africa's fight against terrorism. Leaders signed the intergovernmental agreement for the African Atlantic gas pipeline project, reaffirming their commitment to a more secure, integrated, and prosperous region.
Permit me to commend your exemplary leadership, Mr. Chair, throughout a period marked by significant challenges and transformation. Your commitment to peace, dialogue, and regional solidarity and democratic governance has helped guide our community with wisdom and determination.
As the largest economy and one of the key founding members of the regional economic community, Nigeria remains steadfast in its historic responsibility to continue the promotion of regional unity, peace, economic integration, and democratic governance. Nigeria will continue to work closely with member states and all stakeholders to ensure the effective implementation of the Compact and the realization of its 6 strategic pillars. Sustainable regional prosperity requires deeper economic integration, expanded trade, industrialization, tourism, investment in regional value chains, improved infrastructure.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our vision for the future must rest on a secure foundation. Peace and security are among our priorities and the conditions on which every ambition for prosperity, integration, and development depends. The question before us is whether our institutions can respond with the speed, coordination, and resolve that today's threat demands. Terrorist groups, organized criminal networks, cyber criminals, and illicit financial flows exploit the gaps between our institutions.
And from high politics to high fashion, our First Lady is trading Aso Rock for Akwete clothes this week. The First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, will visit Abia State on Tuesday, July 21, 2026, to celebrate the renowned Akwete weaving heritage. According to a statement signed by the State's Commissioner for Information, Prince Kano, on Monday, the First Lady will be hosted by Governor Alex Oti and his wife, Priscilla. Kano disclosed that the highlight of the visit will be a tour of the Akwete Weaving Cooperative Society in Akwete, Ukwa East local government area. After the inspection, the First Lady and Governor Oti will proceed to the Akwete Central School Field for a grand civic reception scheduled to commence at 10 a.m. The reception is aimed at celebrating the historic visit and showcasing the rich cultural heritage of Akwete to the nation, bringing together government officials, traditional rulers, community leaders, women, and youth groups. Kanu added that residents of Abia State, especially in Ukwa East and neighboring communities, have been invited to turn out in large numbers to accord the First Lady a warm and memorable welcome. And now to Kano, where books just got a serious upgrade. The federal government has commissioned an upgraded digital e-library at Federal Government College, Kano, as part of efforts to strengthen learning infrastructure under President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda for education. Education Minister Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa also reaffirmed that the federal government remains committed to the FGC Kano land swap project. These were contained in a statement issued on Monday by the Special Advisor, Media and Communications, following an inspection of key education projects across Kano State. The minister expressed satisfaction with the progress of the bilingual school in Ungongo, saying the project is about 90% complete and expected to open in September 2026. He further directed that teacher recruitment and other preparations begin immediately to ensure a smooth takeoff. Dr. Alausa announced plans to open a third bilingual school in the 2026 academic session, with a fourth expected by June 2027, designed to reduce the number of out-of-school children by integrating Al-Majiri and other vulnerable children into formal education. It was accompanied by the Honorable Minister of State for Education, Professor Suweiba Said Ahmad, the Executive Secretary of UBEC, the Executive Secretary of NERDC, and senior officials of the Federal Ministry of Education and Kano State Ministry of Education. And back in Abuja, lawmakers are inching closer to something Nigerians have debated for decades: state police. The House of Representatives has commenced clause-by-clause consideration of President Bola Tinubu's executive bill on state police, signaling its readiness to adopt the Senate-passed version with only minor amendments where necessary. Chairman of the House Committee on Constitution Review and Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu, said the executive bill, which has already secured first and second readings, reflects the president's long-standing advocacy for a multi-tier policing system to strengthen Nigeria's security architecture.
The State Police Bill remains one of the signature constitutional reform initiatives of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Because, you know, the police structure in this country, he was one of the first people who, as a state governor, always advocated for multiple layered policing as a strategic tool towards ending insecurity in Nigeria. And now being the president and also championing this bill goes a long way to prove that he is practicing what he preached. And as we have always argued, debated, presented, that though we are three arms of government, we are one government. If there is a national objective, all we do is to key into it, especially when that national objective is for the interests of the people. And this time around, there is a national consensus that security needs to be on the front burner. The executive is keeping it on the front burner. You and I, who are from the legislature, we are here today, not because it's convenient for us to be here. We start our parliamentary days from Tuesday. But we are here because duty calls and time is of the essence.
And if you are a soon-to-be core member or a parent of one, nervously refreshing your dashboard and considering the deployment options for your ward, NYSC has news for you. The National Youth Service Corps has announced that the 2026 Batch B Stream 2 orientation course will commence on August 5 across the country. The scheme disclosed this in a statement issued on Monday by its Director of Information and Public Relations, Caroline Mbu, stating that the 3-week orientation exercise would run simultaneously in the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory from Wednesday, August 5 to Tuesday, August 25, 2026. The NYSC said prospective corps members can now access their call-up numbers through their dashboards, while call-up letters would be made available in due course. The Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu, congratulated all prospective corps members mobilized for the 2026 Batch B Stream 2 service year on completing their studies in higher institutions within and outside Nigeria, and advised them to prioritize their safety while traveling to their respective orientation camps. The announcement comes after the successful conclusion of the 2026 Batch B Stream 1 orientation exercise held nationwide. Not every story this morning is light-hearted. In Oshogbo, transport workers are raising serious allegations against their own union leadership. Members of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, and its Road Transport Employees Association, RTEN, counterparts have alleged continued maltreatment, killings, and abuse of power by the Nuruddin Alowole leadership of the union in Osun State, calling for his arrest and prosecution. The members staged a peaceful protest in Oshogbo, calling for urgent action to address the situation. MITV Plus correspondent Jamiu Omoni reports that the protesters converged on the Nelson Mandela Freedom Park around 8 a.m. on Monday morning, while receiving the audience of the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, Benedict Omole. The union called on the Inspector General of Police to fish out all criminal elements within the union to ensure a peaceful atmosphere in the state.
The process of the agreement is that we are to return to Amotekun Pass because it belongs to us, not Alowole. Alowole was imposed on us by the state governor, Adebola Adeleke, which is against the union constitution. The extant law in the union constitution recognized us, not him, because there is procedure for everything we did in the union. Our members have been killed by him with his associates. Some have lost. We even see some of them bodies. Some vehicles are burnt. So you have a lot of criminal activities in the sand, which is supposed to be answered to at the court of law.
Yeah, they are very partisan. We that are not belong to their party, we are suffering from this government under the leadership of our state chairman, Comrade Jelili Abioye of Road Transport Employer. We don't want him again. That's all.
We will be left with no choice than to resort to self-help. So we are calling on the IGP. We are calling on the State Commissioner of Police to do the needful. They should do the needful now. Arrest Nuruddin Alowole and prosecute him. That is when we will be pleased that government institutions are perfectly functioning.
Security is also in the story in Ogun State, where the Amotekun Corps just got 1,000 reinforcements. Governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, has inducted 1,000 newly trained operatives of the Ogun State Security Network Agency, codenamed Amotekun Corps, during a passing out parade held at the NYSC orientation camp, Shagamu, Ogun State. The new recruits, Batch F, were described by the governor as an upgrade in capacity for the state security architecture. The governor, who was represented by the head of service, Olanrewaju Saka, said that without peace and security, economic growth, social progress, and human development cannot be fully realized. Also speaking at the event, the commander of the Ogun State Amotekun Corps, Brigadier General Alade Adedigba, appreciated the governor for making Ogun State one of the safest places to live.
More efficiently. To our graduating Batch F operatives, I congratulate you on the successful completion of your training and enjoin you to work harmoniously with other security agencies. Respect the rights and dignity of every citizen. Uphold the rule of law and remain committed to the protection of lives and property with fairness, compassion, and patriotism.
Vigilance and professionalism demonstrated by the corps have contributed immensely to strengthen community policing and improving public confidence in our security architecture. This administration has remained unwavering in its commitment to providing the necessary support, logistics, training, and welfare required to enable our security agencies discharge their responsibilities effectively. This commitment aligns with our administration's vision of building our future together and under the Ishaya agenda, where every resident can live and pursue legitimate endeavors in a peaceful and security environment.
And in Lagos, if the government took your land for a road project, Governor Sanwo-Olu says your check is finally ready. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has presented compensation checks worth 3 billion naira to 331 project-affected persons, PAPs, whose land and properties were acquired for strategic road infrastructure projects across the state. Speaking during the presentation ceremony held at Alausa, Ikeja, Sanwo-Olu said the exercise reflected his administration's commitment to ensuring that development is pursued with fairness, justice, and respect for the rights of citizens. Earlier, the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Lands Bureau, Kamar Olowo-Shago, commended the beneficiaries for their patience and cooperation, noting that the land surrendered for development would continue to serve millions of residents for generations.
Well over 3 billion to over 300 individual and projects affected persons whose land or property were acquired for strategic projects across the state. Let me re-emphasize that we're not just simply acquiring land to build infrastructure. We're building trust and we're laying the foundation for the Lagos of tomorrow. And I'm certain that together we shall continue to build a greater Lagos that would work for all of us. It is not charity, it is justice. It is not a favor, it is your right. Progress that overlooks people, they say it cannot endure. Development that ignores justice, they say it cannot command public trust. So we want to ensure that we're governing with a people face. We want to ensure that we're governing transparently and we're governing with a serious public trust.
To our esteemed project-affected persons, permit me to express our sincere appreciation for your patience, understanding, and cooperation throughout the acquisition and completion process. It's a long road. We recognize the sacrifices you have made, and we assure you that you are contributing to the delivery of critical infrastructure that will improve the lives of millions of Lagosians today and benefit generations yet unborn.
You are still watching Breakfast News on MITV Plus. Still to come, business, foreign, and sports stories after this break. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you are watching Breakfast News on MITV Plus. Now let's talk money, because the central bank is spending 2 days locked in a room deciding the fate of your interest rates. The Monetary Policy Committee, NPC, of the Central Bank of Nigeria continues its bi-monthly meeting today and says it is being guided strictly by data rather than market sentiment. The Apex Bank credited the early implementation of economic reforms with helping Nigeria withstand recent global shocks, the reaction of CBN Governor Yemi Cardoso. I have with me in the studio our correspondent Abiola Ismail to discuss the likely outcome of the meeting. Good morning, Abiola.
Good morning, Shegun.
Trust you're doing good.
We thank God.
All right, so As we await the final decision of the NPR and other key parameters like the CRR, the asymmetric ratio, and the rest, do you foresee any change in the NPR?
Well, to me, I want to believe that NPR will still be remain as it were. When you look back in January this year, we opened the year with 26.5%, and the meeting of Monetary Policy Committee is bi-monthly. So every 2 months, look at the market, the market indices, economic indices, look at what should be changed and all that. And if there's relative stability in inflation rate and interest, then there's no need for change on that. Now, we are looking at the monetary policy rate to still remain at 26.5. And not only that, experts have also said that with the current situation in the country in terms of stability and the coming down of the inflation to now is about 15.19%. And looking at that, I don't think there's any cause for alarm for CBN to change the MPR from 26.
So let's look at it now. As the meeting enters its second and final day, analysts expect the MPC to maintain its tight monetary policy scheme as inflation remains elevated at 15.91%, and the naira faces renewed pressure, with the widening gap between the official and parallel market rates, strengthening the case for keeping interest rates unchanged. So, what do you think about this?
Now, looking at the parallel market and the official market, now the gap certainly is widening because we believe that in as much as we are making more dollars from the current issue that is already going on in the Middle East. That is the fight between the US, Iran, and Israel. And the pump price is going up. Nigeria is making more dollars. And the more you make more dollars, then the more you make more foreign currency, then the more you have in your kitty, in your secret, more foreign currency to change. You understand? And at that point, whoever that is going out to get raw materials or to buy something, the likelihood that the price from the banking industry and the parallel market will continue to shrink until we get to the... Although CBN is monitoring the Bureau de change in terms of what they're sending out so that there won't be too much pressure on Naira. But if you look at it in the last 2-3 weeks now, Naira has been able to gain momentum over other currencies. So it's a good thing for Nigeria that certainly we are making more money.
All right, so beyond the NPR, there's a bigger conversation about how manufacturers are being funded, and a lot of people are not happy about it. So what do you think about this scenario, this particular scenario?
Looking at the manufacturing sector, manufacturing happens to be the second largest employer of labor, apart from the government, and that sector is being tightened with credit facilities. Now, manufacturers are already crying that government should open a new window of credit that will be at least from 0 to 9% interest rate, not 2 digits that we're having 15.1% now or 26% But if government can give manufacturers, you identify yourself as a manufacturer, enroll with the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, MAN, then from there, government will open. That's the call to the government. But now CBN is already closing that intervention. No more intervention. Now, sometimes ago, the Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chinyere Alumna, has called on the government to release the 1 trillion that are promised the manufacturers as intervention. With that, it will also be a booster for the manufacturing sector.
All right, so industry stakeholders have expressed divergent views on the Central Bank of Nigeria's Nigeria's withdrawal, from direct intervention, financing the manufacturing sector.
Yes.
So, according to what you said, Dr. Chinwe Amuna, the LCCI DG, she said the CBN's exit has left manufacturers heavily dependent on commercial banks, and they are not structured, to provide long-term industrial financing. So, withdrawing intervention financing without a credible replacement has pushed manufacturers to a credit market ill-suited to industrial development. So, in all of this, how do you see this CBN step in the face of the current economic title?
Now, to me, I do not support the CBN in this area because we all know that if you have a very good, sustainable manufacturing sector, certainly not everybody will have a government job. But you can join, you can be enrolled, you can be employed by manufacturers. And if there is money, if there is liquidity on ground for them to be able to get capital, to be able to get equipment in and roll production, then it will be a very sustainable growth for that sector. But unfortunately, the Central Bank of Nigeria is now withdrawing the intervention fund. Then you are now leaving these people to go to commercial bank. And we all know, you and I know that once you get to commercial bank believes in, this is the money, get me my money back. Manufacturers need long-term investment. They're going to buy engines, they're going to buy equipment, they're going to pay salary, not even in the face of this electricity problem that we're facing. Most of them are going solar. Most of them are going alternative energy power. And it is money they're going to use. But commercial banks are not looking into that direction. They only believe in, I have 30% interest rate. Are you ready? If you're not ready, go. Someone else will be coming. But this shouldn't be, because you're just leaving the manufacturers into their own fate.
Okay, although optimistic that the Lagos State Industrial Policy and the National Industrial Policy could spur fresh investment, Almona also stressed that implementation, not policy announcement, would restore investor confidence. She went on to urge the federal government to immediately release the proposed 1 trillion ratio to improve banking sector liquidity and strengthen coordination between monetary and fiscal authorities. So now, this is what I want you to do for us. Kindly explain this to us as ordinary Nigerians. How does all of this affect our buying power?
Thank you. When you're talking about the CRR, that is the credit ratio, the cash credit ratio. This is the amount that the bank should be able to give out. And presently, it's about 45% of the total recapitalization of the money that you have. You should not give more than 45% that you have. If you are a bank and you have 100 billion, then what you can give out is just 45% of that 100 billion. Now, this 45% is what you need to give out in terms of credit to manufacturers, and they need to pay back. If manufacturers have money to buckle up, certainly production will roll. Certainly employment will be there. Certainly interest rates will surely go down, and the purchasing power of you and I will be strengthened. Because if you have money to send your kids to school, to buy food on the table, you have something that is coming up to the family, then a lot more will be done. And money circulates. You buy, you sell, you collect money, you give to another person. That is the only way I think the economy can grow.
So the currency keeps flowing.
But now, the 1 trillion, if government can release it, it's just a suggestion, it's just appeal to federal government. If they can, to this sector, is to be certainly boost the economy. That's the belief, certainly boost the economy.
All right, so let's listen to a clip from your engagement with the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, Segun Ajayi Kadiri, on the effect of the war between the US, Israel, and Iran on the manufacturing industry.
Really, many people will think that the war is far away, and so we shouldn't be impacted. But that's looking at it from a narrow perspective, in the sense that we may not be physically impacted by the bombs that are exploding everywhere. But the fact that the world is an integrated economy. And so when you have an economy that is exposed to external shocks, you will imagine that whatever happens outside of your territories, but with those with whom you relate, it becomes a major issue. And so this war is centrally affecting Nigeria. The most present form, you can look at it, is the fact that oil is our major resource, and the international politics that follows oil, either in its production or in its logistics in terms of distribution, and Nigeria is heavily involved. And as you can see, the price of PMS has gone up, the price of diesel has gone up, and manufacturers are major users of this resource. Even though we have domestic production, because of the inadequacy of domestic supply of crude, it has become a major issue for us because we are going to be impacted by the disruption of logistics and the constrained production, which will definitely escalate costs. This is the major aspect. There's also the issue of imported inflation, because generally speaking, flow of freight, movement of goods and services will be impacted by this escalation. And also you will know that the trickle-down effect is that whether we'll be able to sustain, even domestically, our quota production. So all of this is coming at a time that we are even still struggling to meet our quota. So I think in everything taken together, we are heavily impacted by what is happening in the Middle East. I mean, currently, inflation is at 15.1%. I'm sure when we are going to have another review, because of the escalated cost of power and logistics, I mean, we are going to see an escalation. And most manufacturers who rely on diesel and gas for powering their industries would definitely be impacted. I mean, only yesterday, a member called me to say that they are having to buy diesel at 1,450. I mean, and before then, just last week, it was 1,000. So you will see that with the high cost of even supply from the national grid and the inadequacy and insufficiency of it, members are still going to rely heavily on the use of alternative sources, and the major one is diesel. So our cost is going to rise. Capacity utilization that has managed to edge up to close to 60 may now have to take a backlash because you need to be able to contend with the cost of power.
And speaking of that conflict, it's already showing up at the pump. Oil scaled back gains after hitting its highest price in the month on Monday, as Iran said diplomatic exchanges with the United States were ongoing via mediators despite renewed conflict in the Middle East. So crude has surged over the past week as Washington and Tehran traded fire, raising fears of a sustained disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, which normally carries around a fifth of the world's seaborne oil. Both Brent crude and U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate extended their gains after climbing more than 4% at the end of last week. Brent was trading at $89 a barrel after rising above $91, its highest price since June 11. The latest moves came after Iran indicated that diplomacy with Washington was continuing through mediators, even as it struck Gulf targets and was targeted by U.S. strikes. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghei told a news conference in Tehran that the diplomatic apparatus has been active in recent days with ideas conveyed by certain mediators. So, Abiola, how much did you last buy petrol?
As at,
and what does this mean for the transport sector as a whole?
You see, as at this morning, I bought it around 1,120 thereabout. That's from MRS. I don't know of other filling stations. But when you look at Nigerian situation, commercial drivers, they always, eat more than what they should.
So they take advantage of
the situation. Now, if we could buy fuel at 1,005, 1,006, and now it's coming down to 1,100, and the same fare from point A to point B still remain the same, then there's something that we need to look at. So one problem we are facing is not even the drop in the price of the PMS, but what about the activities of the NURTW, RT, written on this issue? If they can talk to their members in terms of if you have seen a drop in
the price of fuel,
then
the fare also should drop.
Let's have at least a relatively drop, even if it is small, from the fare you're collecting from commuters. That is one. Second, what's
the effect on the transport sector?
On the transport sector now, look at what Ismail said, that's the foreign minister, that if they can go by the way of what U.S. told us. I mean, from the ceasefire, and to what they have as at yesterday, then maybe not. We have a relatively drop or a stop or a close or a end to the ongoing war in the Middle East. If that's what happens, it certainly come down to everyone. Transportation will be easier. People will be able to move from point A to B to wherever you are going with little money that you have in your pocket. But as of today, the transporters are eating more than what they should on commuters.
Because I feel after food, transportation gulps the bulk of your take-home as a worker. I just sincerely hope these tensions de-escalate so we can, breathe as the true recipients of the price hike. So now we move to Ukraine, where the human cost of the war at sea keeps climbing. The death toll of a Russian strike on a cargo ship off the coast of the Ukrainian city of Odessa has risen to 10. The Guinea-Bissau flagged ship was hit by a Russian cruise missile on Sunday, the Ukrainian Air Force said. A search and rescue operation was launched and lasted all night. By Monday morning, Ukraine's seaport authorities said 9 crew members had been killed, as well as one of its pilots. India later said 4 of its citizens died in the attack. In recent weeks, the Odessa region has come under sustained attack. 28 people died in Russian strikes on the region in July alone, regional head Ole Kipa told Ukrainian TV on Monday. Russian attacks on cargo ships in the Black Sea have also increased. Sunday's attack on the Guinea-Bissau flagged Golden Leo ship was the deadliest of its kind. Among the victims were 4 Indian nationals, the country's foreign ministry said, adding that endangering crew members or impeding freedom of navigation is deplorable and should be avoided. Meanwhile, in the U.S., one of the most wanted men in the drug trade has just had 3 words no cartel boss wants to hear: life in prison. One of the most notorious figures in Mexico's drug cartels, Ismael El Mayo Zambada, will spend the rest of his life in prison. A U.S. judge has ruled 2 years after Zambada was lured to the U.S. in an elaborate sting operation. The 76-year-old founded the violent Sinaloa cartel, for long known as the most powerful criminal organization in Mexico, alongside Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. In 2024, El Chapo's son led Zambada to believe they were traveling to northern Mexico to inspect clandestine airstrips when their plane instead landed in Texas and he was arrested. Last year, Zambada reached a plea deal and admitted to drug smuggling and conspiracy charges in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. On Monday, U.S. District Judge Brian Cogan sentenced Zambada during a hearing in Brooklyn Federal Court. His guilty plea carried a mandatory term of life in prison, Reuters reported. El Chapo's son, Joaquin Guzman Lopez, was also arrested in July 2024 and has pleaded guilty to federal drug charges. He has yet to be sentenced. And in sports, this morning, English football is mourning one of its own. Former England captain and manager Kevin Keegan has died at the age of 75, 7 weeks after he revealed he had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, his family have confirmed. One of English football's most decorated players, Keegan enjoyed spells at Scunthorpe United, Liverpool, Hamburg, Southampton, and Newcastle during an illustrious playing career. He later went on to manage Newcastle, Fulham, England, and Manchester City. Keegan revealed he had stage 4 cancer in June. A statement on behalf of the Keegan family said he was surrounded by his wife and daughters in his final moments. And in World Cup fallout, Belgium has decided it's time for a new voice in the dugout. Belgium manager Rudi Garcia will leave his role after the country's football association decided against extending his contract. Garcia led Belgium to the quarterfinals of the 2026 World Cup, where they were defeated 2-1 by eventual champion Spain. The 62-year-old replaced Domenico Tedesco as Belgium boss in January 2025 on a contract that expires at the end of July. Belgium failed to convince during the group stage and won just 1 of their 3 matches, but produced a remarkable late comeback to beat Senegal 3-2 in the round of 32. Garcia's side impressed in a 4-1 win over tournament co-host United States, a match overshadowed by FIFA's decision on U.S. striker Folarin Balogun. The former Roma, Lyon, and Napoli manager has not lasted more than 2 years in a job since leaving Marseille in 2019. And that's breakfast news for this morning. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. It's at MITV Plus on Facebook, at MITV Plus_NG on Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can also watch our programs live on YouTube at MITV Plus_NG. Please remember to click the like and subscribe button. Thank you, Abiola, for joining me this morning.
You're welcome, Shegun.
I am Shegun Akinola. Have a beautiful day ahead.